Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk.
Feather kept motion-activated Arlo cameras on the children, one in the shed on the 14-year-old boy and 16-year-old girl, and one in a room upstairs with no bed, only a tarp floor that stayed on the 9-year-old girl and 11-year-old boy. The video showed a daily routine of waking up early and being forced to stand with hands on head, unable to change or shower, receiving only peanut butter sandwiches to eat before going back to bed on the floor. In the shed, the teens used a camper toilet, holding a sheet up for each other to shield the other from the camera. Lieutenant Pyle said she first began hearing about this in August before the shed discovery, but testified could never quite get a hold of a CPS worker to follow up.
There was a contact made with a worker once, but there was no further contact to coordinate going and making a visit to the residence together.
The jury saw days of video the Arlo camera saved, including the moments deputies busted in the door on the shed on October 2nd.
You're okay.
The children were turned over to Child Protective Services, and when Lance and Whitefeather got back with two of the children that night, they were later arrested. But that was just the beginning of their charges and the investigation. On Friday, the jury got an inside look at Whitefeather's cell phone. This included text messages between she and Lance where they referred to the kids as monkeys and pigs. Often Lance would describe physical punishment, where he said he, quote, knocked one.
Big Herc 916, getting down with a fresh out Prison Talk. And as you can see, Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance are pure garbage. Hell has no place hot enough for these two. So they adopted children ages 6 to 16 from a shelter for homeless and vulnerable youth, and they targeted them for forced labor. And you wonder why it took so long for Child Protective Services to find out about this. Were there any previous visitations to the home? Were the kids not able to speak to counselors? They had cameras on these children while they were sleeping on the floor and feeding them sandwiches, making them stand with their hands up above their head. And then Donald's punk ass would get off on taking food away and hitting the kids. Now, Donald, I hope they put you in a cell with an OG that has some time on his hands and he needs to relieve some stress. And I don't regularly promote this type of behavior. And I'm not talking about taking his cheeks. I'm talking about splitting his wig. Donald, I could tell, has never had his wig split before. But this calls for justice. There's no other justice for these two. No child in this vulnerable state deserves this type of outcome. Scarred for life. Now they're dealing with social issues, racial issues because of the circumstances, and they have to try to now heal themselves. This is just deplorable, man. They're being held on a $500,000 bail, and apparently the children were found back in October during welfare check. They forced their way into the barn, and that's where they found the 2 children in a small room. The children had no means to exit the barn on their own, no running water, no bathroom facilities, and were obviously deprived of adequate hygiene care and food. I want to send a word out to South Central Regional Jail in Kanawha County. I've heard of some wild and just really heinous crimes out there, but this right here, you should know that these two right here are at the top of the list, man. They're at the top of the list. And I want to bring public awareness to this because I haven't seen this on any mainstream. It's popped up on my feed a couple times now, so I had to speak on it. But these 2 right here deserve whatever punishment they have coming. They said the neighbors also reported that the children were forced to perform farm labor and were not permitted inside the residence. West Virginia Metro reported citing in the filing. And then this is what their attorney had to say. White Feather's attorney, Mark Plants, said that there was a key inside the shed where teens were found and that there was just a plain and simple misunderstanding about what is going on here. Yeah, plain and simple misunderstanding, huh? Well, how about we give these 2 sandwiches and make them stand with their hands up and don't give them adequate hygiene and let them wash their ass, make them go around stinking and see how they like it. Disgusting, man. Leave a comment, share this video. These 2 need to be publicly shamed. They need to be exposed. Share this video, man. Big Herc 916, fresh out prison talk.
Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in.
Crusty butt,
Exclusively at
smelly ball sack, and a funky hoo-ha. Big Herc said, wash that ass. Pick you up a t-shirt at freshoutseries.com.